There we go. Trying again.
Oh, it says it's streaming. It says live on Facebook.
Yep, I can see it.
Okay.
I'll come out
That's
now.
good.
Seems to be about a 5-second delay from what we say.
Okay. So that's
Okay.
working then?
Yeah.
Yes. It says it's working at the top.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this evening's Human Resources Committee of Bletchley and Fenny Stratford Town Council. If we could please keep ourselves on mute for the meeting and unmute ourselves when we want to speak. If you can use the tools within the Zoom tool to raise your hand. Before we go on to the agenda, if I could just go round all of the councillors and ask them to introduce themselves. I'm Ethan Kelly Wilson and I am the chairman of this committee. Angela?
I'm Councillor Angela Kennedy and I'm the chair of the Town Council.
Sam?
I'm Samantha Brown, Councillor Samantha Brown. I'm on planning.
Okay. Michael?
Hi, I'm Mike McDonald and I'm based in Eton South.
Okay.
Yeah, Eton
Keith?
South.
I'm Councillor Keith Ely and I'm Chair of Finance Committee.
And Ed?
I'm Ed, I'm Councillor Ed Hugh.
Okay, and Secretariat for today is our clerk. I'll let her introduce herself.
I'm Delia, I'm the town clerk.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, if we could go to item 1 on the agenda, which is members' apologies for absence.
Chairman, there are no apologies for absence, everyone's here.
Okay, thank you. Okay, members' declarations of interest in matters on the agenda. Are there any declarations? Okay.
Chair, may I interrupt? I think
Yeah.
Councillor Kennedy might want to speak. She's raised her
Okay.
hand.
Go ahead. Thank you, Angela.
I'd like to declare an interest in, it's one of the items in the confidential, not sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's item
12, isn't it?
12. Yeah, item 12.
Okay.
Item 12.
How's that the confidential item? If,
Yeah.
I know we don't note your interest now, but we can discuss it before we discuss that item.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. If we go on to the minutes of the previous meeting of committee dated the 28th of January. So page 1 of the agenda of the minutes, page 2, page 3, and that completes those set of minutes. Everybody happy with those minutes?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
And a subcommittee meeting held also on the 28th of January. So I think that would be myself, Councillor Kennedy and Councillor Hume.
Just for noting, Chairman.
Okay, everyone happy with that? Thank you. Okay, first item on the agenda, public speaking time.
We've had no requests from any members of the public to make representations this evening.
Okay, thank you very much. The next item, update report on NJC pay scales for 2020-2021. I'm guessing that you're talking to this?
There's really nothing to say except that we still haven't received the updated pay scale. I've attached with the papers the most recent news release, and we still don't have a definitive pay scale for the year.
Right, so this will be once we are aware of the latest pay scales, they'll be backdated to April, will they?
Correct.
Okay. So this item, just to note, is everybody happy with that?
Yep, agreed.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, item 7, report on recent changes to employment legislation likely to affect town councils. There is a report before you.
Mr. Chairman, it's just an update report. I think I mentioned something about this legislation which came into effect in April on the last occasion. We're still waiting for our HR advisors at Ellis Whittam to comment on our standard contract and standard employee handbook. I'm afraid their response has been delayed by all their work on dealing with COVID-19 issues.
Okay. So again, I think for noting at this point, I'm guessing once that work has been done, it will come back for the committee for discussion.
Yes, it will,
Yeah,
Chairman.
brilliant. Okay. Thank you very much. Everyone happy with that?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Item 8, update report on current employee recruitment, and there is a report for you.
Is item 8 in confidential or not?
I think it can probably be discussed. It can be discussed not in confidential session.
Okay.
It's just an update report.
It's just it had the star. I was just checking.
Yes, it did. Yeah. I think that was. I don't think there's a reason why it needs to be confidential.
Okay.
Okay. Just get to it.
So the basis of the administrator environment and premises, we've not recruited.
No,
So,
we've not recruited because we've just reached closing date on the 21st of March. It's not been possible to hold interviews. Well, I guess it's been possible, but it's not been easy to hold interviews since then. And now would not be a good time for a new person to start, I feel.
yeah.
Also, we've coped quite well during the current arrangements with the complement that we've got. Therefore, I think that this matter should be just kept on hold until until the situation changes.
And then also noting the community officer based at Spotlight.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Again, with that post, I think that we'd agreed that that post would be looked at again. And
Yeah.
I think that in the light of what's happened at Spotlight and on the lakes during this period, there's even more reason for looking at it again.
Okay. So members happy to note that this report?
I think Councillor Hume wishes to speak.
Go ahead.
Just a brief question, just regarding the first post. Are we keeping those who have been interested up to date with where we are?
Yes, we have. We've kept in touch with everybody. One person's withdrawn, but we're still in touch with everybody else, and nobody else has withdrawn at this stage.
Just to make sure we're managing expectations.
I think if there's not so many, we might want to, email them once every 4 to 6 weeks, and just so that we keep them warm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I think Councillor Ely wanted to speak.
Yeah. Sorry, Councillor Ely.
Ethan, did we get many applicants for the job? Was there much interest?
Yes. Yes, we had a very strong response.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other members? Okay. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is report on health and safety at work and arrangements made for working during the pandemic. And there is a report on the app for you.
Chairman, if I could just mention now, there is
Yeah.
one item on there that I haven't that I intended to include in terms of the arrangements that have been made, and that concerns annual leave and holidays.
Yeah.
So I would like to speak to that
Okay.
when members have asked any questions they might have about the report.
Any questions on the report?
No.
Councillor Kennedy.
I was just wondering, and I have mentioned this to the clerk about the library being closed. I just wondered if we're going to, how far along we're going to get with the alterations for COVID-19, so we can actually maybe start opening it with a skeleton staff in there if they are safe. Because I know the library is back opening, isn't it, shortly?
Would you like me to respond to that? The library at the moment, I think, is open for click and collect only, but it will be opening to the public in due course. And obviously, we intend to open to the public in due course, but we are anticipating that we will stay in line with the government guidance on working from home where it's possible. But we are trying to do some work on planning for the use of the premises when the time comes to return to work. Most members of staff are now working a combination of working from home and working in the office. But we're trying not to have too many people in the office at once at the moment. We'll need different arrangements when the public come back into the office and we have more visitors, and we need to do something to sort out the reception area to make it more COVID secure.
Okay. Any other questions? Yeah. Delia, have you seen the guidance from the government, the 32-page document on offices and contact centres and
yes,
the things that you have to do? I mean,
yes.
just to clarify, you know, from the day job, we one of the 5 points of the COVID secure workplace is you have to do everything that you can to ensure that people can work from home. So we may be in this hybrid state for a period of time, I would guess, because our assertion of the 32-page document is that we are not allowed to force people back into the office if their job can be done remotely.
I think a lot of work. I mean, I feel very pleased with the success of the home working that there has been during this period, and thank goodness the council had the foresight to arrange all the remote working Citrix setup so that we were really resilient when this happened. And I think that the home working has been very effective. I mean, the Rangers have not been able to work from home, but everyone else has been able to work from home, and it still is working from home, albeit that there are some essential tasks that people are going in to do. And until the government guidance changes, we will work from home as long as we can.
I have a question. Oh, sorry, Angela.
Oh no, you can go first. Okay. I just wanted to know if everyone's back to normal hours, or are we still doing reduced hours anywhere?
Everyone is back to normal hours. The area of productivity that the workload that's been reduced the most, and the person who's been most affected is the community officer at Newton Lees, because a large part of that role is dealing with the bookings for the premises, and we're not taking bookings at the moment.
Yeah.
And although she's attending the offices and she's been doing what work she can do, her workload in particular has been obviously greatly diminished. Okay. So yeah, she hasn't got enough work to do to fill her normal hours, but she is doing a lot of things.
Okay, that's lovely. Thank you.
Sorry, is there anything that the pavilion officer could be doing to support Will on snagging? Because I go down there quite a bit, and there's still things that still haven't been done and probably need chasing. I
will liaise with Will on that and come back to you, councillor.
Yeah. The other thing that I was going to say is I've noted from the report there's a lot of people using their own phones. Is this something that is a problem, And in the longer term, is this something that we need to resolve? Because I think that, you know, we're now kind of 3 months in, and I know that in my own organisation, I'm getting people moaning about devices, etc.
No one's made any complaints about it. People have seemed to be quite willing to use their own phones, and in fact their own, in some cases, their own PCs and laptops.
Okay.
But yeah, it's something to be mindful of, isn't it?
Okay. Any other questions on this report? Okay, everyone happy to note the reports?
Yeah. Okay.
Could I just mention the holiday
Oh yeah, sorry,
situation?
I forgot about that. Sorry.
Yeah, which I meant to include. During the early part of the lockdown period, we not everyone was working full tilt until we got arrangements in place. And obviously, during this period, members of staff have had holiday booked, and I've explained to the team that generally speaking, we do want people to take the holiday, because given that we are such a small team, it would be very difficult to manage the situation later on when we return to something more like what normal used to be, if everybody wanted to take their holiday at the same time. So we discussed it in a team meeting and reached a sort of consensus that what would be fair would be for people to take their holiday entitlement across the course of the holiday year in proportion to the quarters. So the idea would be that for someone who's on the standard holiday entitlement, which is 27 days, they would have to take 13 and a half days by the end of September. And that would be, you know, ideal. In an ideal world, half of that would be in the first quarter of the holiday year and half would be in the second quarter of the holiday year. That would still leave 13 and a half days for the second half of the year, when there might be more scope for people to use their holiday. There may be more scope for people to use their holidays to go away in a more meaningful way. And there was general consensus that that was reasonable and that that was fair. We've also asked people to take their 2 statutory days at Christmas, between Christmas and New Year. So we don't usually make that compulsory, because sometimes people like to work at Christmas, and we do allow people to work at Christmas. But this year we've said no, you know, the intention is that everybody should take their 2 stat days. However, since we had that discussion amongst the staff team, a member of staff has raised with me the issue that there have been some changes to the COVID regulations. Do involve changes to the working time directive, and in certain key industries there have been regulations to suggest that employers can allow people to carry their holiday over as far as I think it's 2023. And I've certainly had one member of staff who said, you know, that a partner is in the situation where is unable to take any leave at all at the moment because of the COVID situation, and therefore that person would like to take leave, would like the opportunity to carry more leave over than normal, which is not something that I'd discussed with the staff team when we had the discussion. From my point of view, you know, there's a certain amount of concern about that, because I feel that people should take their holiday within the year in which it's allocated, because they need the holiday, even, you know, notwithstanding the COVID situation. But also, if a large amount is carried forward, it does. You know, the problem then perseverates year on year on year if it's carried forward for over a long time. On the other hand, I can quite see the point of view of the person who's not going to be able to have any holiday with their partner.
Any questions on this? Keith?
Chair, I'm not in favour of carrying over large amounts of leave. not at all. You're just building up a problem for, as Delia says, in future years. I think a small amount of latitude is fine, but I would put that down to, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 days and no more. But apart from that, no, I'm opposed to it.
And I've just had a question from a councillor who's asked, should we be in a closed session to discuss this matter? Just your advice on that, please.
Well, I think we haven't said anything that
No.
that is not confidential. I mean, if you wish to ask questions that would take us into, you know, confidential territory, then you would need to pass a resolution at this point.
So I've got a question that I don't think is going to be confidential. Actually, it's not a question, it's a statement. But my understanding, having read those same rules, is that people cannot move all of their leave into future years. We have 27 days plus statutory days, or is that including?
Yes, no, 27 plus 2 stat days.
So that's 29 days, and then we add on the 8 bank holidays that you get a year, so that's 37. What the legislation says is that you have to carry out, you have to have taken your statutory allowance, which is 5.6 weeks, including bank holidays. So they have to have had 28 days holiday, and they can carry over the remainder. So in this case, the most days that could be carried over is the 28 minus the 37, which is 9. So I think that a lot of people have misinterpreted it, even in my own organisation. They think that they can just take all of their leave next year, but it's anything above statutory that they can carry over.
Ethan, is that advice or a directive?
That's the law. So that's Working Time Directive, which is part of UK law.
So what I've just said about 2, 3, 4 days is not possible.
So I think we can kind of set whatever rules that we want, but the government has said that they have varied the legislation so that people can carry over more days than normal. So normally an employee would be able to carry, under the Working Time Directive, 5 days into the next annual leave year. So that is that bit of the rule that's been suspended from, you know, my understanding.
Well, I'll stick to what I've said. Is if the Working Law Directive is 5 days, I think that's the maximum we should allow.
I tend to agree with Keith.
Okay. Is that a proposal? Did you want to speak, Ed? Sorry, you did.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm in agreement with Keith. I think it's really important that actually, yeah, it's important that people take holiday in the current year, but also it's important that actually people's situations have changed, and actually people want to maybe enjoy that time with their partner and away. And if that's the case, I think we should be looking to allow some days to be carried forward. 5 days probably is reasonable. So I would be happy to propose that.
Okay. Is there a seconder?
Yeah.
Oh, did you want to speak, Delia?
I did, yeah. So just to clarify that in the normal course of events, we do allow carryover. We do allow 5 days carryover in the normal course of events. So if you want to persist with that situation, then that is our normal procedure.
Yep. Then we stick with the normal procedure, Chair.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yep.
is that proposal?
Yep.
Yeah. The proposal. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Okay. And all of those people in favour, please. Any abstentions? And I think that's carried unanimously.
And just to clarify for my sake and for the minutes, so no extra carryover. And do you agree that as far as possible, that the leave should be taken spread across the course of the year, so that we're not left in a difficult situation when everyone comes back, as it were, and if everyone wants to take the holiday at the same time?
For me, that's really important. I think that we remember that leave is actually there for health and safety reasons, to make sure that we are safe and well and rested at work. and so it's important that the leave is taken throughout the year. Any other points?
Dina,
No.
is there not something in the purple book about
Green Book.
green book about the green book about how much percentage of the whole? I thought it was something like 2/3 had to be taken before October. Perhaps
I'm
not.
not aware. I'm not aware of that. If it is in the Green Book, I'm not aware of it.
Right. Okay.
The other thing is, Chair, could I have a resolution approving the arrangements that have been made and that are laid out in the report, please?
Okay.
Oh, sorry, I was just voting.
So I'll put that proposal forward. Will anyone second that?
I'll second it.
Okay, and all those in favour? Okay, I think that's carried unanimously. Okay, next item on the agenda is loan working system for employees.
Yes, Chairman, this is a report that's been prepared for the committee by the Environment and Premises Manager. I will do my best to answer questions on it, should you have any. Okay. I think you remember that this is an issue that came up when the health and safety audit was done by our health and safety competent person, and it's been a concern for a number of well, for some while, that we should sort this out.
So I'll give members a couple of minutes to read.
I'm impressed with the report. I think it's thorough, clear, and I think we should go with the recommendations that have been made. I would propose, Chair.
So you're proposing the Angela, and then Michael.
Yeah, I just wanted to speak. I'm not sure about this, and I know Councillor Graham for People's Safety has previously mentioned we should have the rangers and anyone connected with the public should have a body cam, and an emergency, and I think that is more appropriate. I'm not a favour of trackers in this particular type of environment. On vehicles for safety, I get. But I'm not so sure about on, as we're discussing. And also we'd have to fit out quite a few of our members of staff with them, wouldn't we? Because there's quite a few people it would affect.
I think the proposal, if I may, is for the rangers to have one particular system, and then for there to be 3 standalone fobs which could be used by different members of staff when they are lone working.
That's right, yes.
Can I ask a question, Delia, on the basis of the track? So I know with some of these systems, the tracking tracking does not take place until such point as they've actually depressed that they've made an alarm. And so with this system, will our people be constantly tracked, or will they only be tracked when they are at risk, or they've indicated that they're at risk?
My understanding, and unfortunately I'm not the author of the report, but my understanding is that we'd have to actually actively seek the tracking information. It wouldn't normally be there unless we whether it can be whether there's a way of obtaining it without the device being activated, I don't know. But what I do know is that from an HR and I mean, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but from an HR and from a GDPR point of view, we wouldn't be tracking unless we wouldn't normally be tracking. This data is not for tracking individuals' movements. It's for being able to trace them if there's an accident or a problem.
Any other points, Sam?
Yeah, on this tracking business, I don't think it's a good idea. I think we're better off having radios for everybody so they can get into contact with somebody if need be. I don't think tracking would be a solution because it doesn't actually it could be 2 or 3 minutes behind. So if you track an Amazon person who's delivering your package, they could be in the next street and not right in your street when it shows. So I think a walkie-talkie or something would be a better idea than tracking, to be perfectly honest with you. And I think this is a waste of money. Get good CBs for a good price and just charge them up.
Okay.
I'm not sure what the difference would be between phones and radios. They've already got phones.
Oh, have they? Okay, then phones. I just don't see the point in tracking, to be honest.
Okay.
I think
Angela.
They've got a phone.
I think it's about, I think if you remember last time it was discussed at committee, the instructions I had from the committee and on the basis of the health and safety advice was that we should be able to have a means to find people when they're lone working if something goes wrong.
You can download software onto the phones to track people without going out buying it. You can buy software and have a subscription to track people on their phones. Just straight download it to their phones.
I've nothing further to add, Chair.
Okay.
That's another idea.
Michael.
Right. Yeah, just a quick one. I have done a bit on lone working before as part of my daily duties. Yep, I'm fully in agreement with the recommendation because the non-SIM systems I have had experience with, and they can have a few side issues as well. Which we had one at our workplace, and then for our night and such staff, but ended up getting rid of it. So yeah, I do think there's more of a fob system is much better. If we look at it, it isn't GPS as it says. GPS I think would be a bit much over. So yeah, I'd happy to support Keith and second his proposal. I think he proposed to accept it.
Okay.
Go with the recommendation.
Angela, I know that you wanted to speak again.
I think I'm not sure. I'm just going to check with the clerk whether I should vote on this because I work for a tracking company.
There you go. Yeah.
It might be sensible to I think it might be sensible to what's the word I'm looking for? To decline to vote.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. So the current proposal, Keith, is
To go with the recommendation, Chair.
okay, and that's been seconded. All of those people for the proposal. And Councillor Kennedy did not vote, so that is unanimous.
Will it get recorded that I didn't vote because of that reason?
I will record that in the cloud in the minutes, certainly.
Okay. Okay. Next item is item 11, vehicular arrangement for efficient and safe deployment of employees.
Yes, this is just if I've just got a brief oral report on this. Just as you'll have noted in the report that I produced on the arrangement, the change working arrangements for COVID-19. One of the things that we've had to do is ask one of the one or more of employees to use their own vehicles because sharing vehicles was not ideal, and so we've been paying expenses for one of the rangers to use their own vehicle. Long term, I think the council needs to think about whether or not an additional vehicle would be a good idea for the efficient deployment of staff, bearing in mind that both the Environment and Premises Officer and the 2 rangers are out and about in the parish a lot of the time. and I don't know how long this social distancing problem's likely to go on, but it has caused us some problems not having more than one vehicle. Now, obviously, that in itself wouldn't be an argument for an additional vehicle, but I think it's something that the HR committee should be bearing in mind for the future. It's easier to send two people in two different directions if you've got two vehicles.
Any comments on that, Angela?
I don't. It was. Yeah, we don't know how long COVID-19 is going to go on for, and we need to, but bearing that in mind. So, what about maybe a short-term hire or lease of another van, rather than investing in one? Because we had the two vans before, and then it didn't work out, and they weren't being used. We did have that problem before, but obviously circumstances.
My recollection of one of those vehicles, though, was one of them were not used because they were so small you couldn't get anything in it. So actually, maybe it was more about size rather than the need. I'm not sure, but I do think it's a good idea to think about leasing to gauge whether we are using it or not. Any other comments? Keith, I think you wanted to come in.
Well, I would always go for the two vehicle solution, Chair. It means that the arrangement have almost always got to be two-handed, which is a waste of resource. We used to have many years ago two vans, and I never understood why, but they decided to get rid of the second van. I always thought it was a mistake, and I think Angela was right. The van was possibly too small. So another van of the Vivaro size, I think would be an advantage, and certainly would overcome the problems that we've currently got with distancing. But also, I think long term, it's a reasonable answer.
Lovely. Ed, then coming to Angela.
I hadn't finished talking the first time.
Oh, sorry.
I'll wait.
Okay. I think just in terms of vehicles, I think it's probably sensible to maybe try some with a leasing would be a good option. What I would ask the officers bear in mind is also our climate change motion to be a carbon neutral council when considering a vehicle.
Sorry, I hadn't thought of that before, but I know that we have. I've sat on finance committee before, and we've been told that we have really low mileage, so it may be a good way to trial if electricity and whether we might get the mileage out of that one. I'm not sure. Angela.
That was exactly what I was going to say when I was talking earlier on. It's looking at leasing, but maybe looking at electrical vehicle and see how it goes, just what you've just said. So that was my thing. And I think the way I'm seeing the work that we're doing during COVID-19, it is sort of, if this is going to carry on until the end of the year into next year, another van is a must. That was all I wanted to say, and I would propose that if anyone wants to do that.
Okay, so what exactly are you proposing, Angela?
That we get a second vehicle, an electric one, and that if we'd look at leasing maybe a year to 2 years and look at the costs, or buying a brand new one. Electric might be a bit expensive.
Celia.
I think it would be really helpful if councillors had more information in front of them.
Yeah.
I think we should do some research on. I know that Leighton Linslade Council have trialled some electric vehicles, and they've had kind of mixed experience with them. I think it would be really important for you to have more information, but in principle, I'm very happy to be instructed to go away and do the work.
Yeah, so I think that's what we should do, look into leasing.
Okay.
And see electric vehicle and get the costings, and that would go to finance, wouldn't it, if we agree?
Yeah. Or a dual purpose, couldn't you?
Yeah. Dual, yeah.
So proposal is for the town clerk or someone in the office to come back with a proposal on arrangements for a second vehicle, taking into account our climate change. Is that the proposal?
That's correct, Ethan.
Okay, and do I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Ed. All those in favour? Thank you. I think that's unanimous. Okay, and now we come to the confidential part of our agenda. So I would like to move that we move into a move a resolution to move into confidential session. Are all members happy with that? Can I have a vote?
Yeah.
Okay, and for all of those people watching on Facebook, thank you, but the public area of the meeting has now come to an end and we'll be moving into a confidential session.